Okay, so welcome to the latest edition of Ed Talks. This is a slightly unusual one from our perspective, one which we're hoping to do a little bit more of, which is to talk to some of the key people at or within the Viewber organisation and find out what makes them tick, where they come from, so that you know when you're contacting us who our guys are. And frankly, there's no one more important within the team than Chris Fife, who here on the recording says Viewer Business Development Team. Very professional, Chris. I like that. But Chris has now been with us for how long, Chris?
Well, it's going on just over 2 years. It's been a very quick 2 years, Ed.
It has been a very quick 2 years, I have to say, and it's been a very exciting 2 years for us. I suppose if you think about what's been going on for the last 2 years, it's been a particularly exciting couple of years. For people listening, it's as well to remember that clearly everyone remembers 2 years ago the pandemic started. As a business, we've had to close twice, reopen, do all sorts of things within a very difficult time frame.
Yeah.
So Chris's job within the organisation is as our key account manager, but an awful lot of what he's learnt over the last couple of years by talking to people in all sorts of different sectors of the industry, I think it'd be useful to find out a bit more. So Chris, clearly you're not English. Anyone who's listened to your introduction there will just know that straight away. So tell us a little bit about your career journey.
Yeah, I've been identified as Australian, I think, as a New Zealander, but I am definitely South African. I know that from birth. I've been living in the UK around about 3 years. As I said, with Viewber, I've been with us just over 2 years. My background is very much from the early days was banking, believe it or not. I started my career journey in a big four bank in South Africa as a financial consultant. And that's where I really got introduced to dealing with mortgages and origination of mortgages in South Africa. So my background comes from banking. Back then, banking was a lot different. As far as the training that went into their staff, it was ongoing. And I went through different job roles, working for one of the big four banks in South Africa, where I moved closer to mainly dealing with property in business development, securing loans, home loans, mortgages for estate agents in the market. And that's where I really got the interest in the property market from working with estate agents. And around about 2000 and 2004, my dad also had background in banking. He was in senior management, and he decided let's get out of the banking environment and work for ourselves. And we started a small little estate agency, which became franchised at some time. So I was
So how
dealing
does
with.
agency differ? I'm always fascinated by this. How does agency differ in South Africa from the way you've come to learn it over here?
Look, it's. I think it's not much different from the UK market. It is obviously changing over time, but there are still your high street agents that operate very effectively in South Africa, and that's who we were competing against. We were a smaller agency dealing with high street agencies. But as the days went on, there were a lot more smaller agencies that became established, and also a lot of more online presence. And the market also started to change, where there was a lot of online agents that they were operating in their small little environments and doing very well. So I think in a way the property market also started to change in South Africa before it started to change in the UK. Obviously, the UK property market being very traditional in the early days, and I think South Africa has tended to shrug that off a lot quicker.
What about fees? What did you charge in South
Yeah,
Africa?
well, 7.5% plus VAT was the standard agency
Seven and a
charge.
half percent plus VAT. God, there'll be
Yeah.
people spitting into their, coughing out coffees and veering off the road in their cars if they're listening to 7.5%.
Exactly. 7.5% plus VAT was the standard commission. Obviously, depending on what type of mandate you conducted the sale with, it could be either an open mandate where there probably could be a bit of negotiation where there's various agents working on it. But the standard fee was 7.5% plus VAT. Um,
And okay, so clearly you enjoyed that, and at some point you decided you wanted to come to the UK. But in terms
yes.
of how would you describe the process that brought you to the UK? I mean, in terms of mistakes, changes, losses in your career, what did you feel you how did you overcome those sort of challenges when you were working?
Well, obviously, South Africa being very diverse. My family is in the UK. I was South African born, and my wife is a British citizen, and also have family in the UK. My parents are also British as well. And it was getting to a point where we decided to explore something new and left South Africa. Obviously, very challenging because I was obviously an estate agent back then. And I also got involved in business broking, selling of businesses. So it was really much selling up everything and coming to a country where I'd obviously holidayed before, and leaving sunny South Africa for a climate which is totally different. And also the people are a lot different than South Africans. I think. I don't think it's a South African trait, but sometimes we've been said we come across far more pushy and shoot from the hip, which works well in this type of environment. I think we know what we want. And
Well, I think it's been great. Actually, I've really enjoyed working with you because actually, so often in the UK, when you employ English people, native English people, to work in businesses, regional accents play such a big part of people's
definitely.
perception of you. You know, when I talk to some people, they go, "Oh, you're terribly posh," and
Mm.
equally, they'll be things can be the other way around. People may not say it, but that's
Yes,
what they think. And what I like
yes.
about the South African accent is this: it sort of cuts across all of that. Have you found that?
It does. Funny enough, I was at a wedding this past weekend, and I called up obviously the hotel just to confirm my booking. And one of my friends, obviously who's a British citizen, says, "Oh, you're sounding so posh on the phone when you speak to them." I said, "No, I'm just talking normally. At the end of the day, this is my South African accent." So yeah, you are right. The voice and obviously the South African accent works well. It can be a bit difficult. I don't think the Scottish understand this. We don't really communicate well together as far as both of our accents. I'm able to understand the Scottish and the
Well, we'll
Scottish.
come on to that in a minute because I know your remit is completely nationwide, and I know you talk to
Yes, it
all
is
sorts of people on a daily basis.
most definitely.
But in terms of your life before you were at Viewber, did you have any particularly big wins or achievements that you were proud of? Anything that you like?
Yes, look, from the state agency days, I moved on to business broking. It was totally a new environment where I became a business transfer agent, where we valued and sold businesses as well. So I also got a hell of a lot of diverse background from that. And being part of a franchise as well, we were one of the top performing business broker and broking franchises, part of in South Africa. As far as earning, we were also a top performing commission earner. So I had good success working with. It was a family business, myself and my father. It was really much a two-man show, and we had good success for many years in that type of environment. So I would probably keep that as a feather in my cap from what I've done in the past.
Yeah, well, I think that's it clearly shows with you when we're working, and you and I work quite a lot together. But actually, because it's so fast paced, we never really had a chance to talk about what inspired you and all that sort of thing. I can remember our first chat when I think we had in the Crown Plaza in sunny
That's
Basingstoke
right.
when
Yes,
you came
yes.
when you came down to talk to us, and it was instantly clear that you were inspired to get on with whatever it was you were going to do and focus on it. But for those who may have come across you within the Viewber, well, from outside, just tell us what you do at Viewber.
Well, my role when I was originally employed, I was employed as a key account manager, which the role's changed. I wouldn't say the title's changed. I'm now account manager, but I like to see myself as the bridge between what our services offer and what the client wants. I'm looking after over 1,000 B2B clients, making sure that they're happy, that the service we're offering is making the requirements that they have and need. Building those relationships, obviously, to expand on new services as well.
And I mean, part of I think what you've done certainly in the past has been to suggest new services. But and when you're talking to people, you can then suggest what they do. And clearly, as most
Yes,
people listening to this will know, the easiest way to sell a service to someone is to sell another service to someone you already sell a service to,
exactly.
and with recommendations. But clearly, you spend most of your time, I would imagine, dealing with a few big clients. How have you found that process? Do you find there are times when you want to? Well, for those of you who are only listening to this, you won't see, but Chris doesn't have a huge amount of hair on the top of his head. So when I say pull your hair out, that's the wrong expression. But do you get times when you really do want to pull your hair out?
Look, it's been challenging. I think my banking days have afforded me some resilience. So I think even though I'm not known to be a patient person, but I am patient, and I think when you get to know your clients and your key contacts in those big organizations, I'm very keen to get to know them on a more personal level, not really a business level. So I try make it not all just business when I am speaking to them, and also not come across way too serious, which tends to help building those relationships.
Because it must have been very difficult, Chris, over the last couple of years. I mean, obviously, the last 2 years has been, well, it's been definitely virtual. But I think I'm right in saying that you have finally been out and seeing that the people who existed behind the screens are actually real.
It's starting to happen again, and it was basically having to get used to those on-site meetings again, which have started again. But it was difficult, obviously, working from home. But I think Zoom Teams did what they needed to do, which often we had catch-up meetings on either on Zoom with video or on Teams, which didn't stop the process of building relationship with those customers. But obviously, I welcome the face-to-face visits again, because they really do work well.
Okay, so tell us what you think it's like working at Viewber, and what do you think of the team? So just your opinions would be interesting.
Yes, it's an exciting company. I've been here, as I say, just over 2 years. The changes that I've seen are quite massive in the volumes that we actually are completing as far as appointments are concerned, with new faces coming on board, team restructuring to obviously cater for volumes as they are increasing as well. And I really see Viewber as a tech business, which we have a staff who prop up that tech business, and it's from our support team who do a fantastic job in making sure bookings are confirmed. Our membership team who are really much our caretakers for all our viewers out there. Our quality assurance team that looks after obviously service issues and responds so well to any service challenges. And also obviously our business development team, which obviously is in charge of bringing on new business and maintaining the relationships with those clients. It's an exciting company, even though we are all working from home. We are regularly in touch with each other, whether it be on Teams, whether it be on Zoom meetings, or just team meetings on a weekly basis. Exciting company, and just to see, be part of a organization that really has a service that's needed out in the market. It makes it a bit easier to try and sell, obviously, the service offering.
So what are your biggest frustrations then when you're talking to people about Viewber? What is it that you feel you'd like to get over, but you feel you sometimes struggle to?
Frustrations are obviously just a time, whether it be my time. Obviously, as I look after over 1,000 business development B2B clients. So it's really just having sufficient time to obviously assist my client base. From the client side, I find obviously high street agents, online agents, auction houses. We've got such a variety of clients. Time is also an issue for them, and it's a matter of just trying to get through as much information as possible in the shortest time frame. And it's very difficult because obviously some stuff is missed along the way, which will require a follow up meeting at some time. But I think just everybody is so busy out there in the property market, they just want to get as much information in as possible in the shortest amount of time, just so they can get on with what they need to do.
I mean, your natural default is to be polite, and I'm older and sometimes not quite so polite. I know one of the biggest frustrations you have, particularly in the light of what you just said about time, is that some people don't turn up for appointments when they're being made, which must be very frustrating.
It is. I would say it was more in my earlier days. It obviously is very frustrating because of when myself or any of the team members booking a meeting, it blocks out our calendar, so we can't accept any other appointments in during that time. So it's basically closing the door on somebody else who may need a call or a catch up meeting. But saying that, I think. Our name is growing out there. Our clients are getting to know who Viewber are, and I think our time is more valued at the end of the day. And recently, I haven't had many instances where a client has not arrived at a
Okay,
meeting,
well, no,
which is good.
that's good to hear. So, if you had any insider knowledge, stuff that you've sort of experience that you've gained, and how you think you could approach clients better, is there anything in particular that you would like people to know?
Yeah, I think we're offering over more than 20 services, and there's really much a service in there for every client out there. And I think the biggest question and obviously challenge is just cost as far as the service. Any company out there, no matter what vertical you're in, whether you're an auction house, estate agent, it all comes down to cost at the end of the day. And obviously we've got our set standard services, but we have got services which can make it far more cost effective as far as open houses, as far as booking a viewing assistant. And it's really up to you as the user to go and manage those services to reduce cost. Obviously, we can put everything in front of you and say book a viewing, book a open house. But if it comes down to the user and more management of what type of services you are booking, it's going to be far more cost effective for a client.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's a very, very good point. And I know from, certainly from my point of view, having been doing this, banging the drum now for the thick end of 6 years, I'm always trying to encourage people to look at value rather than cost of the
Yes.
service. But, and I think as estate agent, as the average age of people who are running a lot of the estate agencies out there gets lower and lower, they're understanding more and more about how tech can help them.
Yes.
I was interested to hear you say that you think Viewber is a tech platform. I mean, obviously there are three elements to it for me. There are the people, as you say, supporting the tech. There's the tech, and then there are obviously all our viewers.
Viewers.
Where do you think Viewber might be in 5 or 10 years' time?
Well, I just, from what I see, we've got that network of viewers that are out there that are excellent. They are trained and looked after them. We've incorporated new services into the Viewber network that have really gone down pretty well. And I think we're going to possibly see some new types of clients. I'm hoping we'll get closer to the insurance industry because we have that network out there where we can offer services for the insurance industry. But with that network in place, we are very much unrestricted. It's a matter of just making sure that our viewers can conduct that particular service that's required. But otherwise, we're happy to incorporate new services. I'm hoping at some time that we'll see an expansion once we have our feet firmly on the ground, that we can possibly look at identify other countries where there could be a surge in the property market where we can have this a similar type of Viewber network incorporated into that company, and working remotely just shows you that it can be done from anywhere in the world. How we operate currently.
Yeah, well, I think that's a very good. I think that's a very good point. So you talked a little bit about how the property market was changing in South Africa. How do you think the property market's changing? And when you say property market, I know that you're referring really to the way estate agents work rather than
Yes.
necessarily the property market. So how do you think that estate agency is changing from your experience in the UK?
Well, I see new estate agents also, more online hybrid agents that are obviously inquiring with Viewber for services. They've left a high street. So there's definitely still is a move from a lot of the agents to an online hybrid type of role where they're starting off on their own and taking that leap, having some sort of some of them having franchise agreements signed with bigger groups to have a bit more value in the name that they're trading under, and also obviously the systems and the network. But I think we're going to see a lot of movement from high street. I don't think the traditional high street is going to go away. I think there will still be always a place for the traditional high street. Obviously, for the seller that wants to go and pay the fee and prefer that personal service. But I think there is going to be a big change as we move forward, especially with also the type of properties that have been built. Your build to rent, your participation ownership, your block properties that are going up. It just doesn't make sense to have on a high street type of a sale on those type of properties where it's going to become more your online hybrids that are going to be dealing with, and hopefully rely on networks like Viewber to assisting with services, full services relating to the sale or inspections of those properties.
Okay, well, there you are. You heard it from Chris. The future of estate agency, more perhaps. And I agree. I very much agree that I think if two things for me: if properties become more homogenized is completely the wrong word, but if they become easier to manage, on the one hand, and if they become if the services that they're going to need can be more easily provided and the conveyancing process for selling them becomes quicker and quicker and quicker, you can imagine that if you could buy a property at the push of a button, things would be very different. And I think from the Viewber perspective, I just wonder whether there's anything else from a Viewber perspective, if you wanted to encourage people to consider using Viewber, from your experience, what do you think is the line that normally really gets people interested?
I think also it depends on the type of client I'm dealing with, the vertical I'm dealing with, but you don't want to replace, the negotiators out there. I think we're more for cover. So depending on the type of client I'm speaking to, it's not necessarily outsourcing all your viewings. It's a matter of just using us as a cushion to make sure that you can still conduct viewings, open houses on weekends, when possibly your offices are closed or you just want to give staff off. So that comes across very well, where we have many clients that are booking services for 3-4 hours on Saturdays and Sundays regularly every week, to manage overflow. So that's really a positive when I'm speaking to those type of clients. But just as far as having a service we can offer throughout the UK, offer services in Scotland, in Wales, where you can go and view a property, get a report of a property before you take that property on the market. For us to manage viewings, to manage open houses, to go and have professional photography done. It's a one-stop shop where you can literally sit in your office and actually facilitate a sale, which at the end of the day, it just makes sense. If you want to expand in your market and grow your area, why not bring Viewber on board as a partner? We don't charge you a monthly fee. It's an opt-in, opt-out service, and use it when you want to use it.
Well, I think that sums it up really nicely, Chris. I think the fact from our point of view is, I know from when I first started this, we didn't want to take over. We just wanted to be I like that expression, a cushion. And I think that being in partnership with people, particularly on the estate agency side, is worthwhile. Listen, I really appreciate your taking the time. My dogs are going berserk, which seems to imply there's someone at the door. So this would seem to be a good time to break. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ed.